That Davis Show, we are back. Of course, you know executive producer Ryan Bukoveski. Follow him at Ryan Beeski and Ryan Beeski1. I'm Kenneth Davis. Follow me at That's Davis on all programs. And also follow him at Ryan Beeski1 on Instagram to get all of the Ryan lust out of you that you may have. You have to get it all out. All right.
What do you mean may?
Yeah, it is. It's a definite. I apologize. That's a definite. Well, listen, we got a ton of stuff to get into. Of course, it's going to be football heavy with this past draft celebration here in Chicago. We're definitely going to go around the NFC North and talk about some of the issues in the draft and who's staying and who's leaving in the Packer of Green Bay. And then coming to the boys of summer, some injuries here on the north side and the south side. And, of course, Tony Russa is still adjusting to coming back to the MLB. So let's kick it off and let's go off top.
Off top?
Taking it from the top, the tizzy. Oh, my people. Listen, I want to go off top on, it's a twofer, but it's a one-fer. It's Justin Fields. Welcome to the city of Chicago.
Well, bam.
Yeah. Look at that young man. He like, you like that. You gonna love me, right? That's what that look is right there.
I even got him in the racist uniform. No, really
nothing. Got to add a little bit of that spice to it. A little bit of that colonizer on top of it. You know, it's definitely great that the Bears did what they have to do and got such a promising prospect. It's exciting. It's a demographic shift, being that it's the first black quarterback really of this type of prestige drafted by this organization. We know what happened in 2017 when clearly they should have taken Deshaun Watson, would have been the most logical pick out of the three top quarterbacks that went in that draft as far as him beating the crap out of Alabama and Alabama being who Alabama is. But this right here feels like a shift, a big time momentum shift here in the city. I keep comparing it to, and it's funny, we'll talk about Tony La Russa towards the end of the show. I compare it to being the total opposite of when Tony La Russa got hired, because when Tony La Russa got hired, no matter what stratosphere you came from, what race, what community, everyone was like, no. It wasn't divided by race. Everybody was like, no. Like I had Cub fans like, what's going on over there? It seems like none of y'all like this. I was like, none of us like that over here. And that's the funny thing about Justin Fields being drafted across all demographics in Chicago. For the most part, you see nothing but joy and people jumping up and down and experiencing happiness for finally getting somebody like we feel is ours that could take us out of this quarterback nightmare that the Bears have been living their entirety except for the Sid Luckman years. But I also wanted to dwell on, and this is probably going to be in one of our up for grabs, I wanted to dwell on the reports of the Vikings thinking that Fields was going to fall to them at 14 and not going after him and settling for Kellen Mond, which I don't know the name that just came out of my mouth because I don't speak quarterbacks that weren't drafted in the first round of this year's draft.
I love how we loved him as the consolation. And now, no more.
No more Mond.
Get out of here.
Get off of my lawn, Kellen Mond.
Take your Texas A&M throwing ass out of here.
I don't know the words that are still coming out of my mouth when I say Davis Mills or Kyle Trask. I don't know these words. It's actually like I'm caught in the rapture in speaking tongues because I know not what I speak. But to the Vikings who are still stuck overpaying for Kirk Cousins, and you could have had a guy that was clearly the next step, and now you have to hope that Kellen Mond can become that next step. So shout out to you, Vikes, for not doing what you had to do to get this done. And you really wouldn't have had to give up what the Bears had to give up, even though perhaps they would have if they tried to approach the Giants, because the Giants would have been like, hey, I'm getting this from the Bears. But still, you gotta go after it, Vikes. All right. If there's a hot babe out there, you gotta shoot your shot. And guess what? You didn't shoot your damn shot. So just wanted to shout out the Vikes. That's how I want to close my off top.
Isn't it kind of funny? Like Ryan Pace automatic trade up. It's the draft. He's trading up. And the Vikings always trade down. And maybe we look back at that year like, man, those Vikings always trading down.
Trade down, Vikes.
Trading down. Could have traded up. Nope. Didn't do it.
Nope. The skull didn't work. You guys messed up. You could have had him. And we got him. And guess what? You got to deal with him for at least a decade. That's the problem.
God willing.
Remember, as he comes up there and dominates, or you come down here and get dominated, that was yours. Remember those years when you keep seeing the flaws in the roboticness of Kellen Mond's game, and you look over to the rhythm of a young Justin Fields. All right, a young Justin Fields. You wet the bed on this one, Vikes. You should have did what you had to do, but I'm thankful you did it because it allowed us to have a tremendous and great grown-up Christmas. So shout out to the Vikes and put up a little mistletoe, even though we don't know who the hell you're going to be kissing because it's not going to be one of us.
Question for you. Like, what's your favorite part of this Justin Fields thing? Because to me, my favorite part is this dude is a pocket passer with mobility.
Right.
Like, I just keep coming back to that when I keep hearing conversation, and just this dude is so deadly accurate from the pocket. Like, he holds on to it too long. That's his flaw. But he's so deadly accurate when he's in the pocket, and he just has 4.4 speed just in case.
Just in case you need a little speed.
Right.
You know, just a little speed. You got a little,
right.
Well,
burner.
I go along with you. I go along with the prestige and the cachet. Like, this is one of the top. He's been one of the top quarterbacks since grade school, basically, right? And we have him. This isn't.
He was the second high school prospect behind Lawrence, right? At the quarterback position.
Yeah, and he beat them, and he beat Lawrence in the Elite 11 before going to college. And so, I think everything that you have to say is part of the reason. But also, what'd you say, Jackie? You said do it. Okay. Also, black quarterback. All right. That's part of the reason. All right. I finally got one. You know, on this show, if you follow, I finally got me one. Listen, it's the feeling of if you waited for another Larry Bird and Luka Doncic popped up, you should be happy if you're a white person. I finally got my black Luka Doncic. All right. I waited for so many.
It's the perfect story. Like, this dude is, I mean, he's the most acclaimed prospect the Bears have ever had walk through that door at the quarterback position. The only one you can count is Jay, but that's not a draft prospect.
Right. Correct. That's not a draft prospect. And I would even say this. Jay probably wasn't as heralded as Justin coming out of high school because he probably wouldn't have ended up at Vandy. Not dissing Vandy, but he probably went there thinking, just in case I just stay for this education, coming out of Christmas, Indiana. So even compared to Jay, and as you mentioned, Jay wasn't drafted by the Bears. They traded for him after he was drafted by the Denver Broncos. But yeah, I think it is, man. I mean, we went over the draft. You asked a lot of good questions about the draft last week, and I can never remember feeling the emotions that I felt. So real quick, let me tell you this too. So,
wait, can I just say one thing really quick before you're real quick? To throw on to your point about Jackie Robinson and Justin Fields, our guy, Jack Silverstein, came out with that great article, and that's why I brought up the racist picture of Justin Fields in the racist uniforms. It wasn't fun being a Bears fan, white, black, whatever skin color, knowing your team might be racist. And it's kind of nice to put that just away. Like, that's not a thing anymore. We don't have to worry about the McCaskies being like, well, you better draft Mac Jones because you know why.
I mean, you can still be racist and know you should get a black quarterback, but I'm not putting that on anybody.
Fair enough. But at least you have a little bit of proof that maybe it's not just racially motivated.
Yeah, maybe. So since draft night, the first day of the draft, Tony and I, because I have to do the Under Center, we had to do 2 episodes of Under Center draft night, one a reaction to the pick, and then a late night reaction to the rest of to everything, right? And I'm texting Tony, and I believe this is when the Eagles are on the board. I believe, I think it's when the Eagles are on the board. And I'm texting him.
10. Did they trade up?
The Cowboys switched. The Cowboys switched with the Eagles. Yeah, the Cowboys switched with the Eagles. And I'm sitting there, and I said to Tony, because he was like, "Yeah, something talking about Mac Jones," and I'm like, we don't want Mac Jones here. And he's like, "You better not let the Patriots get him." I said, "You know what? You want the Patriots to get Mac Jones anyway because you want Mac Jones to succeed." And he texted me back a demon emoji, right? The grinning demon emoji. And I said to him then, I said, "You know what? I'm about to start getting ready to go on air because the Bears about to move up. Literally 30 seconds later, Ryan, the Giants pick switches to the Bears.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, they about to do it, right? Literally, like, I'm like, I can't, they about, oh my God. I'm thinking maybe the next pick, but I knew at this point with where Justin Fields was at, the Bears are coming for him, right? So when I say that, and you literally see the Giant symbol switch to the Bears and the trade thing flash across the bottom banner, and I'm like, I can't believe it. I stand up. I think After's in the kitchen, and I'm like, they're about to do it. Yes, yes, yes.
I was screaming.
Yes, dude. And it was such a joyous occasion to finally get a heralded. Like, usually, no, the thing is this, usually when there's a quarterback like this, we're out of it. Like, no one thought the Bears could get a quarterback like this at 20. Right, it's usually situations like that. The Bears are picking in the 20s. Maybe there's only two quarterbacks. They could
get them at 11.
Right, maybe there's only 2 quarterbacks in the draft. So clearly, you don't have as many bites at the apple as when there's 5 in the first round, going in the first round of this draft, 3 in the first 3 picks. But to pull it off, and the thing is to only give up 1 number 1. You swap. They didn't give up 2 number 1s. They gave up 1 number 1. To be able to do that, I'm not worried about next year's number 1 pick. All right. Like, so that if it was 2 number 1s, I still would have made the move, but it would have hurt making the move.
What I was thinking with that 1 first, because you're right. 2, forget about it. That would have really hurt. But just 1, I mean, if the reports are true with this drafting of the next class, like, it could be a really bad quarterback draft. And that's what you're going to be missing if you didn't make this move anyways.
Right. Right. And so I like it, to say the least. The feelings, I saw trending black quarterback. I felt like I should have got a cut of that. All right. I feel like that's been a part of this show for years now. But, it's bigger than just him being black. It's just for a franchise that needs an infusion of talent at the best position, the most important position, to finally get someone that's promise dictates that even his floor should mean he should be good, and his ceiling means he could be really great. And as he said, hopefully one of a top 5 quarterback in this league. If the Bears have a top 5 quarterback for a decade, it's something that my dad never experienced. Like that's
none of us.
None of us have ever experienced in our lifetime. So that really says a lot of one of how bad the Bears have been when it comes to that position. But yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. Another thing too, like, I'm so happy it was Justin Fields, because I think Mac Jones, he might be great, but he's only going to be great because of the situation he goes into. And that was a perfect situation. I always agree with you. I don't think it's a great situation for him here in Chicago. It could maybe work, but if you just look at it first blush with everything that's going, how the parts are moving, Mac Jones fits so much better in New England than he does here in Chicago. And
totally.
Really, Justin Fields fits so much better for what Matt Nagy wants to do. And it does seem like these guys maybe have a little bit more security than we originally had thought. But regardless, if you hit this pick, and especially if he plays this year at some point, which I think he will, but if he plays and plays well, then that's going to buy a lot of job security for Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace.
And listen, if he pans out, unfortunately, towards the end, they deserve it. They don't deserve it right now because they done messed up a lot. But they straightened up. They done messed up a whole lot, man.
A lot. Oh, so, baby.
You can't just absolve everything from this. But yeah, man, to say the least, it has been a terrific weekend. I didn't pay attention to any other sport. When the White Sox won in that doubleheader, I was like, for real? Right? It was like, okay. Like,
especially when Thursday happens, like, you're just like, okay, I'm locked in Friday, Saturday.
Yeah. I'm almost done with football. I got one more day before I wean myself, because I'm recording everything on my DVR, football related. I'm trying to just get everything. I've never seen the Bears get A+, the A+ to B+ in the draft. People nationally saying they won the draft. I've never seen that in my lifetime consistently.
And Ken,
the consensus saying that.
Did you feel that way? Because I seriously, trying to be unbiased, I felt like the Bears had one of the best drafts out of the entire league.
I was on with Sean and Maya yesterday. I believe Sean said, if they stopped after the first 2 picks, I probably would have been straight. Right? Like, I mean, that's how it's how I went. So yeah, you never know with late round picks. All right.
You don't.
It was sound what they did late round, but you don't know. But I think they had a damn good draft. You know what I'm saying? You got now we know clearly it's your left tackle, which I was on Sean and Maya yesterday, and I was like, slow down. You don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to Charles Leno. I know none of us like him.
So too.
But I really see us coming back this year and being like, we wish we had another left tackle at some point. I feel like that in my bones. Hopefully I'm wrong. But I mean, again, that $9 million, I guess clearly they needed that $9 million to sign the rookie and go after sign the rookies and go after some free agents. But I wasn't on the bus, and I'm not a Charles Leno apologist. I wasn't on the bus to get rid of Charles Leno, but I know we'll definitely jump into that. But still talking about Justin Fields, it felt like manna from heaven, to say the least. And I enjoyed devouring it. That's how I felt.
Me too. And, even with some of those late rounders, like you got 2 returners, they could help you right away, potentially. One's a kick returner, one's a punt returner.
And they signed, they just signed a returner too, a receiver from the Patriots.
And that 6th-round pick receiver, he's fast. Maybe you can utilize him in this scheme, do something. I really like the 5th-round pick, but he's probably not going to be able to help you out this year. But they have that history of 5th-round picks that seemingly come out pretty well. So we'll see, maybe. And even just their 7th-round pick, I just love him as just a total backup, just this double-team eater right behind Eddie Goldman, because he really didn't have a true nose. So I thought even those 6th-round picks, you can't expect too much from them. But if they have just these minor roles, I think that they might have a chance to be able to fill them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Borum, the tackle from Missouri, I guess he better get in like as he fit in. He can be a guard or a tackle. He's a big boy. That took us
at
large.
350, and that was fine for his athleticism. Basketball player. I'm really intrigued by him.
And I mean, we'll see if Mustapher holds up, if Daniels is either moved back to a center in the future, and this guy may be kicked in. But they have more depth at the offensive line, even though, like I said, again, I wasn't keen on releasing Charles Leno Jr., but it's a cap penalty. He wasn't getting paid a lot to be a left tackle in the NFL. Shout out to him. Even though 2 years ago he really got on our nerves. Last year he didn't get on people because he had so many false starts at sometimes in critical moments. We really we hang on to that. But last year he wasn't terrible last year, and I mean you shouldn't be reaching for terrible. He wasn't bad. He was decent last season. But for a 7th-round pick, you really made a lot out of yourself, young man. And you're about to get some money from the Colts probably. So shout out to you. Continue to do what you're doing. And went out classy too. You know what I'm saying? Didn't go out like I was snake bitten or anything. But yeah, listen, Tevin Jenkins, man. I was talking. We had Alex Brown on with us during the draft coverage, and he talked about Tevin Jenkins being a classic right tackle, and how Adewale Ogunleye usually played against the astute left tackles who are more of Rhodes Scholars than just maulers like the right tackles are. So you're going to put that mauler on the left side. Hopefully, see he figures it out. I see Mike Gundy is talking a lot about the kid just figured it out 18 months ago, and the Bears really have to stay on him and keep challenging him. Hopefully they keep challenging him and knock him upside his head and keep this kid hungry and motivated so he can go out there and dominate from the left side. Because if you have your left tackle for the next 12 years, that's you really nice right now. And one, you got him for cheap for 2 seasons. For 3 seasons at least, because you would have to pay him during the 4th year probably, since you don't have the option of a 5th year since he's a 2nd-round pick. But I was a Tevin Jenkins guy at 20 for a majority of this draft.
Me too. I loved him.
You were too. So it's a guy that we had at 20 that you got in the 2nd round. And you got a quarterback. We were willing to settle. We were willing to take quarterbacks that we don't even speak that language and get our tackle. You know what I'm saying? Like a Kellen Mond. Again, I don't know what came out of my mouth right now.
Who is that?
We were what? I don't even know I don't know what I'm saying. But I mean, but look how it turned out. It just, man, I wish we had another week of this celebration. You know what I'm saying? Like, it should be no code. We should all be allowed to go to Soldier Field and just hang out and kick it and drink. Like just like the weather, it would be like in the 70s, and just like open the gates up and let's all hang out. Let's have Bears greats parade through regularly or whatever. Like, just come on, man. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how good this feeling is or whatever. But it's definitely this is my favorite draft. I know that was a big part of last week's show. Your favorite draft. This was my favorite. Only thing missing from this draft is I wish Kenton had gotten into football enough to where he watches the draft with me. That would have made it. If he was here when that pick happened, it would have made it so much more special. You know what I'm saying? That would have been sweet if he would have been. Because I could imagine not being in a room, being in my room, my dad being in another room, and us both just screaming as the Bears move. Oh my goodness! I could just imagine the jubilation that we would have had this happened 25 odd years ago. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to my pops, man. We finally got us one. Shout out to your pops too.
Yeah, same here. Shout out pops. He would have loved Justin Fields just as much.
Yeah.
It's such a good feeling. The only thing that tamped me down was this kind of Charles Leno news, because I thought personally, contract year, you're not going to bring him back, so maybe you might get his best play because he's auditioning for the rest of the league. You could just settle him there, let the kids settle in at right tackle, but no, it's full go. The one thing though I really do like, at least with all the offensive line picks and even picking up Jermaine Ifedi, they have like 3 guys that they could go to at center. They have like 8 guys they can choose from for guards, and they have like 4 or 5 guys that they can choose from tackles when you include like the 7th round picks from a season ago. So they're going to have a heavy competition to find those top 5 guys. The only ones probably for sure are Tevin Jenkins, Cody Whitehair, and James Daniels. So there's probably 2 spots up for grabs.
Yeah.
But then it's just the order of those 3.
Yeah. I'm with you. At least you got enough bodies to hopefully figure out the situation. You know what I'm saying? So it just, hey, man, it seems like Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy learned some football over this last season. Stop with all the chicanery and just use common football sense. Your offensive line hasn't been getting off the block for seasons. All right. You need some guys with an edge on there to pump these guys up. All right. You need a quarterback. You for the most important player on a football team, you haven't filled that position out adequately whatsoever. You bungled Ryan Pace, you bungled the Mitchell Trubisky pick. By no means. And the funny thing was seeing ESPN had ran this thing about quarterbacks drafted in the first round. I believe it was quarterbacks drafted in the first round and who had the least amount of games played in college. And at the bottom was Mac Jones and Trey Lance, right? Both with 17 games. At the very top was Mitch with 13. Like, and if it wasn't a resounding, like, what the hell was you thinking? Right? Like 13 games and you was like, I'm all in this kid right here. He's gonna be the one.
Drew Brees.
Yeah, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna get him there. Like, no, you don't need a quarterback. You're gonna get there, especially if you're selecting him in the first round. Like we mentioned the Kellen Mond situation. Again, I don't know what I'm saying. With the Vikings, they have a quarterback. So they can take their time in 2 seasons, because after this year, that guaranteed money for Kirk Cousins is like about $40 million. So they got to let him play for 2 more years at least. But they have a situation where they have a guy they can transition from. And if they don't hit, he's a 3rd round pick. But here you needed that dude, and they went out and they got that dude. Justin
I know.
Fields.
Freaking love
Fields
it.
Of Justin.
And I love this little quarterback competition they got going on. Like, he's going to push the hell out of Andy. And Andy's going to lose that job as soon as he sucks. And this, I was saying after, definitely don't rush it. But Kyle, he did his We Are Regal Radio draft recap, and I felt like, dude, this isn't college. Like, this is the NFL with a bunch of people that are as Mitch scarred as the head coach, GM, and fan base. If they see this kid that's clearly he's the best quarterback on the team, they're not going to play around with no Andy Dalton.
Facts. I'm totally with you. If he shows that he's the best guy out there, they're going to put him in. I just don't want them to rush him. I want him to be as ready as you can be in your first season. If he plays this year, which I think he's going to play even regardless if he doesn't start. Yes. I think they're going to have packages for him just to at least, one, use his athleticism and run RPOs with them a couple times. Sure. I mean, he's going to see the field and get adjusted. Until you're really out there full blow, you can't say you're adjusted to playing in the pros. But again, as you were saying, his skill set is ridiculous. You know, like, this isn't somebody with an arm and it was like, it's straight. No, he has a cannon. Right. This is a guy that can run, and this is the thing too. And I should have said this when the Cam comp was bothering me. Because when I look at him in college, he wasn't a guy that was scrambling for yards all the time.
Right.
He's a guy that was definitely trying to win in the pocket, and that was one of the things that I know one of his skilled trainers was saying a lot about how, you know, this kid, usually guys don't like to work on their weaknesses, but he came in and that's really what he spent time working on and trying to learn his craft. So I'm looking forward to the Justin Fields era here in Chicago.
Those intangibles are so tantalizing too. Like, just total opposite of Mitch. Just like actual leader. Doesn't need to go find a book about leadership somewhere to figure it out.
Won't tell them to cut the TVs off.
Right.
At Hallis Hall.
Like, that's why I'm so excited to see. Like, when you got first round quarterback, that preseason is lit. You want to see every snap of every little possession that they have. And then on top of it too, when you just hear the training camp reports and things like this, he's coming in to start. He's never not started anywhere he's been. Unlike Mitch. Mitch was like, Georgia. I'm just here for the ride.
Georgia.
Well, but even then, he still played at Georgia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he still got on the field.
The Jake Fromm police, they weren't allowing that to take place.
There was a clear bias against him there. That's why he had to move on. But he's not going to be waiting around for a year if he can help it. He's going to do everything he can to put as much pressure on Andy Dalton and Matt Nagy to put him into the game. And, man, I mean, Andy Dalton's got to kill it. Like, his advantage is being in the pros and knowing an offense and kind of the timing, but he doesn't have anywhere near the skills that Justin Fields has. And I think a lot of his skills are going to translate really quickly to the NFL.
I do too, or at least I hope so. But I'm right along with you. It's a blessed moment, to say the least. So, how do you feel about the overall draft, man?
Oh, I love it. Like you said, it's my favorite draft. And on top of it, too, just having that Aaron Rodgers news right before the draft was just kind of that creme de la creme for me. Just knowing, trade up for Jordan Love. This is what you get.
Right? Dude, that some people you can play with and some people you can't. You should know Aaron Rodgers is one that you can't play with. And the thing is, too, they just got to come to grips with the truth. All right? You got to move them. Go out and get as much as you can possibly get. Look, oh, man, don't do my mans like that. Go out and get his – that's exactly how he looked when that Jordan Love pick you came through right there. Mother!
I saw the little report, like, the Bears at least called Andy Dalton, but the Packers didn't do that for Aaron Rodgers.
Think about that. The nerve of them not to say, hey, A-Rod, we're going to do this. Right. I mean, just not to even – I mean, the disrespect. I know Stephen A. Smith, and I think Stephen A. Smith is talking to Aaron Rodgers himself. He said that the type of allowances that were given to Brett Favre weren't given to Aaron Rodgers. And you would think that'd be crazy because they're both Packers legends, and actually Aaron Rodgers is better than Brett Favre. And I love me some Brett Favre until he says stupid shit. All right. But in general,
the penis comes out.
Right. It definitely not that. But Aaron Rodgers is better than him. And you don't treat him like that because he's not a good old boy.
Right.
It's a good old boy. Aaron Rodgers need to pull up with the general Lee to get his respect from the general manager. But the fact that you bungled it. Listen, even if the year before there seemed like a little slippage, you knew you had about 5 more years with Aaron Rodgers. Dude, Aaron Rodgers can play until he's 42 at least. All right, like, come on.
And literally, if you did the phone call, he wouldn't have been happy, but maybe you avoid some of this. Maybe he's like, all right, I'll at least ride out this contract, and then I'll see you later. Like, just stabbing him behind his back. He probably has this draft party with a bunch of people, and then everyone's just like, oh, they traded up to replace you. Not get you a receiver or a weapon.
It's probably the reason him and Danica broke up. She probably said something slick. It's like, I'm canceling her ass right now, right? It's like Nino Brown style. Canceling her. Like, you said the wrong thing.
Bears. Get the hell out!
And she's in the Indy car. Like, you take your Indy car too, right? Oh man. Outside of
call Aaron Rodgers.
Outside of this, what other big headlines and national stuff from the draft did you really suck in? Because it was hard when the Bears were doing what they was doing to really get my national on. Because I was living in a Chicago bubble. I watched the entire draft. I watched every second of the last day of the draft, and the Bears didn't even have a 4th round pick, and I watched all of the 4th round. I thought I was going to be able to jump out after the 6th until the Bears made that trade. They got a 7th round pick, and I was like, damn it. I just
wait till 250 now.
Right. So I would think nationally some of the big stories. Well, nationally, I got to say, Trey Lance going to the 49ers.
I was going to say, this is our number one, I would think, right here. I mean, not only the connection San Fran, Chicago, not only the connection Justin Fields versus Trey Lance, you also have that weird, like, he started about as many games as Mitch kind of thing, but it's different, and he's not as accurate, but maybe he can be taught a little bit more accuracy. It's really interesting. To me, that's the number one outside of the Bears national and outside of Green Bay is that San Fran, like, for at least the next 4 years, we're going to be looking at San Fran and Chicago, who messed it up, or if San Fran messed it up. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that stood out to me. The
Bengals. Just one other thing, he's probably going to play this year because Jimmy don't stay healthy, and that's going to be crazy.
Listen,
like he's just going to play.
This may be the year he go, as me and D used to say, he goes overseas and gets that blood spun. Spin it. I need all the help I need this shit, man. Hold this kid off.
Julian Edelman special.
I'm just saying, you got to get a little extra up in there, man. You playing for another deal for another team right now, man. You listen. He's playing for another team, and he probably can't go back to the Patriots now since they have Mac Jones.
Right.
Listen. Jimmy Garoppolo's draft was double whammy by the fact that they drafted, which he knew they was going to draft a replacement. They draft a replacement. At least it probably helped earlier than Trey Lance, even though Trey Lance and Mac Jones played the same amount of games, 17. But then to have Mac Jones fall to the team that he knew he probably had a chance to return to, had to be like, damn it, right?
He was watching, like, after 3, like, okay, whatever. I knew that was going to happen. And then he's just watching for 15, like, damn it!
Right. He called up that porn star right away, like,
right. Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Let's make it a double.
I need you bad. It was a double whammy.
I'm about to move to Tennessee or something like that.
But then I would say the Bengals taking Jamar Chase instead of Penei Sewell, that one was like, man. And I tweeted it out. I was like, damn, the Bengals listened more to Joe Burrow than the Packers listened to Aaron Rodgers. Right? Like, because you know damn well the reasons that Jamar Chase went there is because Joe Burrow was like, go get my dude. And he was like, but we want to protect you. He was like, fuck your protection. Go get my dude. Right?
We're deep. This is a deep draft.
We're going raw. Exactly. We're going raw. Like, no protection? No protection.
We know
so
Broadway Joe, Slick Joe.
Right?
That's the way he gets down.
So that one jumped out, and then
the Lions did for me, like, great pick, top guy, but Jared Goff isn't the answer, and you passed on Justin Fields just as much as ever. Like, just that block of 7, 8, 9, I kind of looked at it as like, like, I get it.
They don't like Justin Fields.
Right.
And that I knew that the Carolina Panthers and Denver were bluffing. That the whole, but we still may take a quarterback. I was like, you're not. Stop. You didn't trade for Sam Darnold to have Sam Darnold and a rookie duke it out. And people could be like, your quarterback room is strong. You can't focus on one of them. You know what I'm saying? Basically, so, and they didn't give Sam Darnold his extra. They traded for him. They saw something, and they think down the road. And we keep saying next year's draft is weak, but some of these people may have quarterbacks in next year's draft that they actually like, though, that they recruited, especially these guys that just came out of college. Like Joe Judge and Rule down in Carolina. I knew the Carolina was lying, and when Denver traded for Teddy Bridgewater, I knew they were lying. I was like, you're not drafting a quarterback now. It's just Teddy Bridgewater. Yes, but they're not drafting a quarterback now. You're not about to have all that capital, Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, and the quarterback you were drafting. So I knew they were lying then. And then on top of that, and Daryl hit me up and was like, and I forgot about it. He hit me up and was like, damn, I guess you was right when you said that about Justin Fields on the show 2.5 weeks ago with that clip you cut up about when I said that the Bears was going to do everything they had to do, exhaust every option to bring in Justin Fields. And I was like, I did tweet that, right? I was like,
right.
Let me grab to put that back up. Right. But yeah, those are the things that definitely stood out to me outside of the Bears movement. I think after what happened with Trey Lance and then Justin Fields falling, the next thing had to be the Bears having the ability to jump up and grab Justin Fields.
That whole procession, like, just the fact, like you said, Jamar Chase goes at 5, which means the Lions are great with the tackle at 7, especially after Waddle goes 6 to the Dolphins. You need all these things to just start working out for you. Corner. And, of course, that second corner, Patrick Surtain, that's the guy that the Cowboys want at 10. So, Eagles, come on up. We're fine with you taking our spot because our guy isn't there. Well, they want Devontae Smith. Well, now the Giants are like, yo, that's our guy. That's the guy we wanted. So, I guess, Bears, we can trade back with you. And then you know that a team like Minnesota, maybe even New England, we're thinking, oh, come on down, Justin Fields potentially.
Right.
It's just crazy how it all worked out, and that's when you look back at drafts, you need to get lucky, and I think the Bears for once got lucky.
I totally agree with you on that one, Ryan. They definitely got lucky with this one. So now is it time for grabs, or what are we doing baseball? I forget if
I don't know. It's up to you if you want to go down the White Sox road of injuries.
I guess real quick. Of course, we found out that Luis Robert is out 12 to 16 weeks. He tore a ligament, a hip flexor. It's terrible, especially for such a freakish athlete. Really, he's been balling out and carrying the team the last 2 weeks with his bat, let alone with his glove. I just hope he heals up. This season, as far as championship expectations, is probably a wrap. But it's just hard. I mean, this is a thing too. When you start to see a championship window, this is why some teams don't necessarily get to the World Series, because guys don't stay healthy. It's just you mentioned luck in the draft. There's luck with guys being healthy and available.
Wow.
And right now, 2/3 of our outfield is out for majority of this season. It's gonna definitely hurt. I hope the Sox don't do anything drastic as far as trading away somebody to go get a center fielder. It's just, I don't think it's really worth that. Keep majority of the assets here and try to hold down the fort until he can return, and hopefully Eloy can return, and see what you can do from there. I think it's the best thing. Also, there was a report. Did you have something that you want to add to that? I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering, do you think he's done for the year, Louis?
No, I don't think he's done for the year, but I wouldn't be mad if he is. I mean, these guys are the future. You got to remember, we're paying them too. They're the future, and you don't want any damage that will hurt his career or stop him from necessarily reaching his ceiling.
Right.
So
yeah, because we're talking like September-ish on the late.
No, he would be back in August if it's the 12 weeks, I believe.
Right. So the 16th late would be September.
16. Exactly.
So
yeah, just hold it. Yeah, tell Golden Arms maintain the fort. It was old Wu-Tang chatter would say. And then on top of that, we had a report from Jeff Passan that some players aren't necessarily happy with some of the moves that Tony La Russa has been doing. There's the questionable, right? There's leaving in, I believe, he left in Lurie and Hamilton to bat, which didn't make sense. So you still had Andrew Vaughn out there. There's an option. Leaving Matt Foster in there and Lucas Giolito when Lucas Giolito was taxed. It's early. He's made some mistakes since he's owned it. If he's still doing this midway through the year, Jerry Reinsdorf, you owe us. Especially since AJ Hitch went to Detroit and you could have hired AJ Hitch, you know you better go get Bruce Bochy after this year if Tony Russa can't figure this out. And I know he's your buddy and all, but your friend can look in the mirror. If he can't do the job and the game has passed him by, he needs to be honest enough to step out the way and don't hold us back and let him go out there and get his lick on.
Yeah, that's, you brought it up earlier in the show. It was universally hated when Tony La Russa was picked up as White Sox manager. I feel like everyone's just saying, even Rick Hahn, a part of everyone, said, "What'd you think was going to happen, Jerry?" And maybe this is just some little report stuff. And like you said, it's early. Maybe he's just kind of still learning the roster or something, just adjusting, and they can get this thing going. And his Hall of Fame manager miss will kick in and everything will be A-okay.
Miss. Oh, boy, that's a Hall of Fame person in that miss. Tony.
Maybe it will start clicking. I just can't believe still that that's who Jerry really wanted. Like you said, AJ Hint just sitting there. My gosh.
I want a job. Bruce Bochy.
Isn't an Avila running the Tigers? The GM, I believe it's Alex Avila's father that's doing it. He must have been licking his chops when he got AJ Hinch.
Yeah, just leave him for me. Listen, dude, they have another option. You sent us to Detroit because just come on, man. Come like that.
Like he must have thought, oh, he's going to the White Sox. Damn. And I'm sure a lot of teams thought that. And just, we like Jerry. Or I'm sorry, we like Tony.
We like Tony. So that sucks. But we're still enjoying this football right now, so I'm not gonna let that break me down. All right. I'm gonna ride this.
There's a silver lining to everything. If there's bad baseball for both the North Side and South Side, or one or the other, and you're just a fan and you're looking for that silver lining, like I just said, training camp, preseason is turned up to the max of most interesting when you have a first-round quarterback that's not even supposed to start. He's not expected to start at all. So this is going to be drama. It's going to be Andy Dalton messes up on this play. Justin Fields kills it on this play. Who should be the starter every single day?
Yeah, I'm totally with you, and I can't wait for it. Only problem, and I hate that it's not going to be a Bourbonnais because I don't know the type of access they're going to give up there at Hallis Hall in the facilities. But yeah,
it's going to be half less fans at least, a quarter of the fans.
But yeah, it's still so that let that Justin Fields, Tevin Jenkins ray of sunlight take away this White Sox angst. Let it heal a Lewis Robert. Right. All right. Like just
let it bless a Nico Horner and then
exactly. Let it help Javi Baez with his fine that he has from the bench clearing incident. Let it spread across the town. All
let it continue to spread the wings of encouragement to Chris Bryant.
Exactly. So that's what we're gonna rock with. But you know what time it is?
Is it?
Yeah, it's that time. It's time to go up for grabs with Ryan Bukoveski. Ryan Beesky, what you got?
Well, my first up for grabs is getting enough of that picture. let's fast forward because it seems like, boy, Aaron Rodgers is leaving Green Bay a lot faster than I thought it was going to happen. And let's just assume right now he's leaving. So who is the favorite in an NFC North list without Aaron Rodgers? And knowing that the draft is over and pretty much all of free agency is over.
First of all, Aaron Rodgers was like, "You ruined my draft last year, and I'm about to F up yours." Put out the report. Put out the report. Put out the damn report. The Bears. All right, like I'm serious.
Yeah.
If the Bears are better, think about this. The Bears weren't good on offense until the end of the season against bad teams, right? Consistently. If you got that play out of Mitch Trubisky and you let Bill Lazor do that with Justin Fields, imagine, all right?
Right.
And your offensive line should be better, right? Your defensive line is better because Eddie Goldman is back. The only problem you have is that cornerback, really. Trying to find somebody to fill in the shoes of Kyle Fuller. I'm not going to say anybody can fill in those shoes. People don't give Kyle Fuller the props that he definitely deserves.
It'd be helpful if Jalen Johnson stays healthy all season long. Really need that one.
Great point. You definitely need that. You hope it's not an Anthony Miller situation where that shoulder's popping in and popping out. I'm not even saying this because I'm a homer. The Vikings, of course, are the threat. Just Jefferson really killed last year. Young rookie out of LSU. Did the damn thing, replacing Stephon Diggs in that lineup. So we know what they can do. We know Dalvin Cook was healthy for majority of the season. So, and this is another thing too. They're re-up. Remember, the Vikings let go of a lot of people last year. So now they're getting closer to the team that Zimmer wants. He kind of that defense went through an overhaul last year with the corners and the front four. So it'll be interesting. And Zimmer is a competent head coach. But with if Justin Fields hits and plays this season, man, the NFC North is in some trouble. To be honest with you, there is some because one, you got to look at the Bears' defense is going to be on the field. How does the defense play when they know they have a baller in there? There were so many times where the Bears defense ran off the field, 3 and out, they had to come right back out there.
Right.
How different, yeah, and just think about how demoralizing that is. Now, it's a chance, just in general, even with Andy Dalton in, if they could just have sustained drives, that the defense can rest a lot more and be fresher and give more of their all as far as just trying to get to the quarterback if they're not drained from being drug in and out and also going long series against the other team's offense. So I would say the Bears will be the threat with what they did in the draft. Because I think also this is another thing. We know the Vikings ceiling for the most part with Kirk Cousins. You know what I'm saying? Like they can make it out the division, you know what I'm saying? But we know they're not special. You know, like we know they're not special. And he can win the game, but you can't consistently count on him to win games. So I think the Vikings you was put up as the first bet, but over the long haul, the Bears have the biggest potential due to Justin Fields and having a better defense. The Bears defense is better than the Vikings defense right now. You know, so if the Bears defense returns, if Sean Deshae can get them playing more like the Vic Fangio Bears defense and less like the Chuck Pagano defense, the Bears only had, I believe, 35 sacks last year. They can get that up back close to 50 sacks and some turnovers. You had Eddie Jackson didn't have an interception. I think he had one call back. I think he had maybe 2 callback last season.
Yeah.
But if you can get those players kicking the way they were on defense, and this offense has been the best that it could be since Matt Nagy has been the head coach, you cooking with grease.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is the Bears, and for a lot of the reasons that you stated, and it's just kind of crazy to think about. They just trade up to 11, and all of a sudden it feels like, you know, it's just this waiting for that one last pull of the Jenga that brings everything crashing down with this Aaron Rodgers Green Bay situation. There's no healing it. It doesn't seem like it is going to be a mess. It is going to be a talked about thing all year long until the Packers just get sick of it and they go with Jordan Love. And just as soon as that happens, I think Justin Fields might be the best quarterback in the division, which is just crazy to think about.
True, but let's not listen. A lot of teams were high on Jordan Love last year, even though he fell to 26. A lot of teams were high on him. And he's had a year to be under Matt LaFleur, and I think we both think Matt LaFleur is probably a good coach. So man, he may get coached up. The curse could still go on. It could be extended another 15 years.
The one thing I was a little encouraged with him is just he's kind of like that Trey Lance, where it's like inaccuracy. That's the one thing you have to worry about. And being a Bears fan, I've seen a lot of picked up quarterbacks that aren't accurate. Those never seem to work out.
Facts. So so that I would, as you said, I'm going with the Bears for that one. I think the Bears, if Aaron Rodgers does and will win, he leaves his division and goes to the AFC because they don't want to see him in the NFC. I think the Bears are. Man, it's gonna be bad business for the Vikings, man. Like, how could you be built off of your engine and you didn't respect your engine? Like, how disrespectful! Like, it's just remarkably reckless to think about what they did. Now, listen, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right, and they're good. They and Budenkic, he knows what he's doing, and Jordan Love's going to do it, and you're going to get a haul for Aaron Rodgers to help lift it. The worst part is going to be this: when they trade Aaron Rodgers, and then with the first round pick next year, they draft a receiver,
right,
with the first round pick, right? It's just like,
or they have to go back for the quarterback because Jordan Love clearly doesn't have it.
That would be bad business, to say the least. But yeah, that's their problem. That's not an issue here in Chicago. We only live Justin Fields' life and do Justin Fields talk, as you can see on NBC Sports Chicago. But yeah, that's a good one. The Bears, definitely. What's the last up for grabs, Ryan?
In honor of the upcoming holiday, favorite sports memory with Mom for Mother's Day.
You go ahead. You can go first.
I don't have anything too specific besides driving to like rec leagues, practices, things like that. But I think my favorite thing, I'm definitely going to miss it if, let's say, my mom's gone one day. Well, she will be, unfortunately. But whenever there's a big game and she knows like the Bulls or Bears or Cubs are involved, she always gets it on the news that night. And she always asks me about it the next time she talks to me.
Oh.
It's kind of like the cutest little thing. She just like gets this little bit of sports knowledge, like, and tries to talk to me as much as she can about it without getting lost immediately.
That's sweet. That's definitely sweet. My favorite sports moment will be with my grandmother. When the Bulls won the championship in '91, I remember being in her room and opening up the window and screaming outside so loud. And, usually she'd be like, stop that. And she just let me scream and scream. And we were just so happy. So that's probably my favorite sports moment with my mom. So that one's probably my favorite sports, or just like my house that I grew up in. And that's the thing that's so weird about this place now. Like, there was sports on every TV, basically. So I could leave this room and the classic may be on, where you have HBCU schools playing football in the Battle of the Bands, or the Olympics, or the Bulls game, the Bears game will be on. My aunt, she lived in Minnesota for a lot of years. So when she came to Chicago, she didn't follow the White Sox. She followed the Cubs. So a lot of times when I came up from school, I was watching Andre Dawson, the Cubs games, because her TV was the television in the front room. So like I have a lot of sports memories in that house. And as I was saying, I wish Kenton had gravitated towards sports like I did at a young age, so we could have that type of interaction. He has a little show that he does with his buddy, and he tries to talk sports. And I'm like, you got to pay attention to sports for real so you can be out here talking. You just can't be halfway doing it or whatever. And I'm like, find stuff that you're really passionate about, that you talk about or whatever. And you could tell like some of the tricks of the trade that you pick up when your dad does a little something or whatever. He sounds good. He sounds good. They sound good. Him and his buddy sound good. Yeah, that has to be my favorite sports moment. Just screaming out the window of the Bulls and won their first title, and Detroit had been kicking their ass. And that's when I first started like loving basketball. Like, I remember being in Inglewood and Detroit beat the Bulls. I don't know if this is the first or second time. And I remember crying. I remember thinking like, why do I care? Right. This is when I started to become a sports fan. Like, I care about this. Right. That's like in the late 80s is when I really started to become a sports fan. I think basketball and football is first. I don't know which one is which one really it's first. Maybe it's basketball, but yeah, that shout out to my grandmother. Shout out to Pauline Keaton. She was a terrific grandmother.
Shout out to old Mary too. Young Mary.
My it's funny, my great aunt, who was more like my grandmother's sister, her name is Mary, my Aunt Mary. But yeah, shout out to those two ladies for being terrific. They were just terrific people, to say the least. All right. So we went down memory lane as Ryan gets me misty-eyed with the Hall of Fame mist that Tony Russa has dispensed all throughout.
I imagine like a crappy magician that's like doing the like
exactly. this is Hall of Fame person mist right here.
Where the hell is that damn smoker?
We'll be back. We'll be back with the flip this weekend. So we figure out what day we're going to do it on to make sure we can all be there. Probably Sunday. It doesn't matter. We drop it on Monday. I believe we're going to have an Under Center podcast probably dropping Thursday or Wednesday. Also, we got an interview coming up with Eric at home, breaking down the draft that'll be coming to you probably around Friday. So just stay pat. Make sure you're checking us out. We always appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us. So you don't have to. The world is crazy, so make sure that you find you a little safe space and get you a little respite. And always just don't do anything crazy before you hear from us again.